Hi, this is Steve with Coin Stuff I Like. And Eisenhower dollars are one of the coins that I like. I do like the series. It's loaded with interesting history and some great double dies and other die varieties. Um, but this time I'm going to cover design varieties, in particular the 1971 S proof design varieties. Now, design varieties are the design of the coin, the features of the devices, etc., that are applied to multiple dies in the production of a coin series, a date or mint mark. So it's multiple dies, as opposed to a die variety, a single die variety, which would be like a Eisenhower FS 103 double die obverse or FS 106 double die obverse from 1971 as proof, or the FS 801 double die reverse, or the Nightcrawler, which those will all be for another day. What we're going to talk about is the design varieties. And in particular, I'm going to present the two primary design varieties in this video. If you look closely, particularly at the R in these images, there's a difference. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about those differences. So I belong to the Ike group, and I'm associated with their DIVA or designated Ike variety project. And we use a prefix for every date and mint mark, and if there's multiple design varieties, we also include that. So one is 1971. S is reserved for the silver proof, and one is the first of design variety. And then hyphen, and then there's four other digits, four-digit number, which is similar to the Fivaz Stanton or Cherry Pickers numbers, similar, where an individual die variety is attached. So design variety first, and then if there is a specific die variety, single die variety, then that comes later in the second part of that hyphen. So the first design variety for the 71S proofs is the peg leg version. Peg leg refers to the vertical portion of the R, the vertical bar of the R, where there are no serifs at the bottom, and also can be increased spacing between the head and the bottom of the R. But no serifs is a primary indicator of a peg leg. So there's a peg leg version, and as we'll discuss, this peg leg, when they produced it, it's a very flat bottom of the R, and so when they produced these Eisenhower proofs, they would make a number of coins with a single die, and then pull it out and repolish it and reapply the frosting, because it wasn't done by laser etching as it's done now. It was sort of a sandblasted effect. They tape it off, they blast it to bring back that frosting, then they polish the die, and they would do that to the die, 2, 3, 4 times during the production run of that particular die. So what happened is when they would polish this, repolish it, it would sort of lower. It would change the field relative to that device, such that the R, the base of the R would sort of fade away, hence fading peg leg. So this is the way it was designed, and this would be after a few die repolishing and refinishing for the frosting, for the cameo effect. So that was the first incarnation in for the 1971 S proofs. That's why the Ike group uses 1S1. 1971 S proof, first design variety. Then they're a little embarrassed when they were starting to produce these, that they didn't really like the quality because this is fading, and these are supposed to be like, specimen pieces, and so they went back and they added a little foot. They probably did that up at the master hub level. And it really looked, they deepened this portion of the leg, and it looks like they took a Dremel tool and just sort of did a little squiggly foot on the bottom. So this is called the funny foot design variety. It's the second one that they came out with. So again, 1S2, 1971 S proof, the second design variety. And so there you have it. I'm going to go back a slide. This over here in this image on your far right, that is after some die polishing. This is a later die stage or die state proof, and so you can see it's had a number of die polishing, but while they lost some of this, it sort of thinned out in this area. This being present sort of prevented the whole thing from fading away, like in this scenario. So this was a sort of a save, so to speak, on the design of the Ike proofs in 1971 because of what was happening with the fading with the die repolishing treatments. So I want to, at this point in time, we presented two primary design varieties for the 1971. I want to go a little bit into cross-referencing using the variety, the Vista design varieties for Ikes. So we're going to switch over to their website, and I've mentioned before that Variety Vista, Dr. Wiles' website, James Wiles, is a very good resource for not just Ikes but other denominations as well, for design varieties, for die varieties, etc. So I'm going to present our Dr. Wiles' design varieties for the Ike dollar. So you come to their home site, or to the home site, click on Eisenhower dollars, and then we have this menu. We're going to pick design varieties. So we'll start with the obverse design varieties, and Dr. Wiles lists 11 different design varieties over the series from 71 to 78. This, besides showing you an image of the design variety, it has a numbering system that he uses, and then what dates that design variety was used. So this one here was used for all the 1971D circulating Ikes, and also the 1972 and 1972D circulating Ikes, and then also the 1971 Silver Business Strike. So if you go down, you're going to find these 71S proofs. And so Dr. Waslis, obverse design variety ODV004 for that funny foot, ODV005 for a fading peg leg, and ODV006 for the full peg leg. My problem with this is that this design and this design are the same exact design. It's just that this one has been die polished and so forth. So this is a product of design die state because of the die retreatments during the production runs. So I don't think that you should have these should be two different listings. They should be just one. And then it goes on to this design, which was used in 73 through 78. And then the 76 obverse design varieties, and then a couple of other ones, which we'll talk about a little bit. So that's the obverse. Then the reverse, there are 7 listed. This is a prototype. This is a Friendly Eagle RDV006. There are 2 different 1976 reverse design varieties. This one made in 1975. This one made in 1976. But they're all double dated 1776, 1976. We'll talk more about that on another day. Then the 3 primary reverses used for all the circulating and even the early proof reverses. So there's the ODV reverse design variety 001, which is also called a type 1. And then there's this RDV 002, which is called a type 2. And then RDV 003, which is a type 3. The only time the type comes into type 1, type 2, type 3 in terms of naming is in the 1972 Philadelphia production, where you can see this one, 73 through 78 plus 72, because it's a crossover year, it's a transitional year. So this was used in 72. This was used in 72 at Philadelphia for circulating strikes. But it is also used for the 72S business strike, 72S proof, and the 1971S proof. And this is a type 1, which was, again, it was used in 72, in the first part of 72 in Philadelphia. But it was used in other years and mint marks as well. So we'll come back and talk about this another day. But there's how Wiles lists them. And now let's go back to the slides and talk a little bit more about the 1971 S proofs design varieties. All right, so let me put it back together for the 71S proof design varieties. And these are the Wiles Variety Vista, if you will, obverse design varieties listings for the 71S proofs. As I mentioned, this should not have different design variety designation. It really shouldn't, because this is just the product of die state. Starting with this, because they all started with this, and then as they're put into production and die wear, it resulted in this. So it really should be, it shouldn't have 2 different design varieties. And that group calls these all 1S1s. That are essentially the peg leg version. The funny foot version has ODV004, which that group calls 1S2. So here's another problem: is the order in which they're given these numbers. in the Variety Vista system. This one came first. Evidently, this is the first design variety. Then this one, and then this one. If you look at it in numerical order, but that's not the way it happened. This was produced first in the early part of the 1971 S-proof production, and then they switched over to this modification of the die, obverse die. So there's the cross, but it's problematic using these design varieties. Of course, if you use them, we'll know what you're talking about. But really, I like the S1 and S2, or 1S1, 1S2. So this, the 1971 S proof had a total mintage of 4,265,234 pieces. That's a big high production because it was the first year, and people wanted to have the first big dollar that was produced in about 35 years. The 1S1, if we look at mint records, the first production run in San Francisco was 2,180 in September. That's pretty late in the year. And then again in December, they produced 1,219,990. So that's a total of 1,222,170 of this design variety. But as I said, they're having problems with this fading, and it was a little embarrassing at producing these things, and so they halted production and went and redesigned it. Just this little fix down here on the obverse. Everything else is the same, but they fixed it down here. And then they came back in 1972, March of 1972, and produced 1971 S proofs in 1972. So in March, they produced 2,806,244 of these. And then in June of 1972, it's getting a little late for 1971 S production, they produced another 236,820 for a total of just over 3 million of this type. So if you look at that relative to this entire production, this accounts for about 29% of the production, and this one about 71%. In my own collection, or my own hoard of 71S proofs, it really breaks down closer to about 40%, 60%. But if you go by the mint records, it really should be about 2970 or 3070 for this. The point is that neither one of these are rare. This is not a rare coin. It's the least common of the two design varieties that were used for the 71S proofs, but it's by no means is it rare. Further, if you look at mint records, the average obverse die life was 2,500 piece. This is for proof dies in 1971. Proof dies in 1971. The average die life was 2,500 pieces, because unlike the silver business strike or the clad business strikes, they're only struck once. These proofs were struck twice, and then they had to do the retreatments and so forth. So the dies only lasted for 2,500 pieces on average. So if you do the math, if you look at that total production of 1S1s, it means there's about 489 obverse dies. Whereas this one here used maybe a little over 1,200 obverse dies. These, again, it's not a die variety There's many dies that produce many coins. These are design varieties, so they're not rare. And eBay sellers, please do not list 1971 S proof with a peg leg as a rare coin. It's not. It just simply isn't. Really, if you want to go rare, if you look at die life, the first 5% of the production probably stayed like this. And then the last 5% were extremely faded versions here. So if you want to collect something that's a little bit more rare, so to speak, or less common, collect a very early die state 1S1, or collect a very, very late die state 1S1. And then you have one of maybe 61,000 coins for either one of those. So again, not a rare item. So again, summarizing, the 1S1 was paired, the obverse die was paired with an RDV002. Again, the type 2, if you will, with sort of incuse islands, and they're oriented like this, very straight east coast of the North America. That's a type 2, and all of these 1S1s, 1S2s, all of them had the same reverse. All right, so if you have a 1S1, it's going to have this reverse with looking at the Earth. And if you have a 1S2, it has this as the reverse. Same reverse. But when I started by saying there's two primary, I want to emphasize primary because I fibbed a little bit. These are not the entire production of 1971 S proofs. There are a couple of exceptions, but they are rare exceptions. So again, this is what amounts to most of that 4,265,234 by and large. Okay, all these mintage numbers apply to this combination. But like I said, I fibbed. So let's go into the less common, and not the primary versions. So there are prototypes, which whether they're truly proofs or they have proof qualities to them. Let's just put it that way. So there are two prototype versions out there. One with this ODV 10, which has a sort of a peg leg, a mixed relief obverse, and there's ODV 11 with this serif R and a high relief. And they're both paired with this RDV 007, which has an earth that is very different than any other earth variety that were the type 1, type 2, or type 3 for that matter, which came out later. By the way, this version here, the ODV 011, this appearance of the R looks very, very, very much like the Galvanos that were produced by Gasparo. So it looks like Galvanos. These were probably prototypes produced in early 1971, the early part of 1971 when they were testing things out. But nevertheless, these got out. There are 4 known ODV 10 RDV 007. There's 10 of those. 4 of those in existence, and there's only 2 of these in existence, were ODV 001 or 011 and RDV 007. That pairing, only 2 of those. So This is not your garden variety. Look for them, but you're probably not going to find it. There's, like I said, only four, only two that are paired with this reverse. And if you did happen to find it, their PCGS graded version will probably get you somewhere between 100 and 150,000 dollars at auction. So these are very expensive. They garner a high premium, whereas the two primary design varieties that I mentioned earlier, they'll probably get you, you'll probably have to pay anywhere from $13 to $18 raw, or in the original brown packs. And if they're graded PCGS DCAM 69, you'll get maybe as much as $40. Certainly in the $30 to $40 range for those particular common ones. But these, no. These are six-figure coins. The other one, and this is sort of my own little white whale. I'd love to have one of these in my collection before I stop collecting. And it's the Type 1 reverse. Now I said that every coin, every 1971 S proof had that Type 2 reverse. Like I said, I fibbed. There are, I believe there are 12 known in existence. There's 9 that are in the PCGS population report, but I'm pretty certain that I've tabulated these. There's about 12 of these known to exist. The reason why is these are probably produced prior to this July 1971 Nixon presentation in the Oval Office, where they things are moving along, but it's before they actually produced anything. You remember, that's 71. I mean, that's September. But they had they had to do this presentation of this new coin, and July 1971, they had this presentation. They had these special boxes with the Nixon signature embossed and the presidential seal, which is different from the usual brown Ike box. And they probably produced 12, maybe a few more out there. But they made them specifically for presentation as gifts by Nixon to Mamie Eisenhower and other colleagues and politicians. So this one uses the ODV 005, the standard peg leg obverse, and a Type 1 reverse with the islands. The islands aren't in Coos. This is a typical Type 1 reverse. Probably because that's the dies they had around. By the way, this also provides further evidence that this ODV 005 was probably the first design variety for the Eisenhower proofs. And were probably the production runs that happened in September and December was using this design variety. So this is very uncommon. Only 12 pieces known. If they'll bring maybe 50,000 to 60,000 at auction. So forget about those. It's good to have knowledge of them, and it's good to hunt for them. But no, this is not something that you're going to find routinely. What you're going to find is one of these, and that's the 4 million plus mintage. Falls into either this 1S1 or the 1S2 with this Type 2 reverse. So thank you for watching. We will come back and talk about design varieties for 1972 and also 76 at some point. But this is intended to give you a good distinction or good idea of the design varieties and some of the history behind those design varieties used for the 1971 S proofs. And again, to illustrate that this is not rare, this is not rare, but they both carry some interesting background history. Thank you for watching. Remember, always be smart about what you buy, but definitely buy stuff you like. Bye-bye.